First ship I was in was Acadia, which is an armed survey ship. She had been a survey ship all her life. She was hand-fire coal with shovels, 8 knots downhill with the wind behind her. These 2 destroyers were out using high-angle guns on this guy pulling a drogue from a little airplane flying by. The drogue would go over the ship, deck would ripple fire, be a big black bang up in the sky, drogue would come out the other end. He did this, and he went around the second one. Second one did the same thing. Then he turned and came up to us. We were coming in from patrol, and he phoned us up and said, "Care to have a go, chaps?" We said, "What about it, guns?" He said, "Well, I got that old shrapnel shell out there. It's been sitting there all year. We never used it." "Yeah, that's okay. Let's have a go." So he fell on the gun screw, and they got the shrapnel shell, and he looked up and put a range on the shell, B, happened to be the one he said, and A, B, C for various heights. Figured it was about a B height. Shoved it in there, rammed it in, put in the cordite, put in the blank cartridge, said, "Ready." In the meantime, the gunners had taken the ordinary telescopes off, put broom handles up with big wire things on them of various distances out, say, for different speeds. These 2 guys were trade brought up to were goose hunters on the Manitoba, northern Manitoba rivers, and they were really could lead things off. And the gun would only go up about 30 degrees, but it was low enough. So we were cranking along there, looking, I said, "What do you think?" Fire, bang, one little black, the drogue settled into the sea. So we sort of, by God, clean guns, went over, picked the drogue up, went into where we were working, which was in Nelson's old casemates that hadn't been used since 1818. But we didn't have any place to go, so we tied up there. And the Americans had a fancy base all built down the end of the Great Sound. We barely got the end tied up and whatnot. A Jeep arrives full of Americans, and they said, "Have a drink." So, "No, I want to see your fire control system." So we said, "Well, yeah." So radar controlled, and well, we have a radar set. Such a nice day, we didn't have it on. And they saw the manure spreader, the prototype of the shell with this wrench to turn this distance on, and these wire sights and things. They had a drink, but they didn't understand. The Americans really didn't. I guess some of them did, but often they didn't train that way. He went for skill, and they didn't bother. They had all this junk, and they'd expect half the guns or a quarter of the guns or 10% of the guns to jam on a certain circumstance, that sort of thing. And then it all worked out. It was pretty good defense, I guess, in the Pacific and places. Yeah. But not much good for us. We couldn't carry all that junk. That was it. That was our big triumph. Yeah. And that's about it. That's the nose of it there. The Syria Urchins seem small.
They are.
Yeah.
They're very small. They're just tiny little 2-inchers.
Not very good eating.
No, it was
it's a lid
really
on
big.
something.
Yeah, yeah.
Pattern, section, box. Oh, it's a 220 volt.
PC.
Marking things there.
Yeah, yeah. It was just,
It wasn't an anchor on the end of that chain anywhere.
No,
They'd
no.
probably just take the anchors away.
You bet.
Salvage the anchors. Well, the main protected area is what we were really interested in. That was what the conference came up with mostly, was we've got to have marine protected areas, big ones.
Yeah.
And nobody takes anything out of them. You can paddle over them and swim through them, and even go take boats across them, but you don't do anything into them. And not even put crab nets down, things like that. Just leave them alone. But nobody's done anything about that. They always say, "Oh well, you got to, got to let people catch this, that, or the other fish. Catch anybody, catch any fish. It's out of no good."
You think they'll work?
I think if they really come up with one that is a big area and closed to all kinds of taking of anything out of it, you go there and you can swim in it and you can yacht it and canoe in it and that sort of thing. You can now take pictures of it if you like, but don't touch it.
Yeah. What do you think we can do to make that change? What do we need to do to make that change?
Oh, God, I don't know.
You've been at it a lot longer than
Yeah, I try to. How do you change people to what they do? I mean, this is the same thing, sort of birth control and motor cars and almost anything you talk about. People won't change. Food.
Yeah.
People do change in time, but not radically and not quickly, except in wartime.
Yeah. So maybe we need a war.
Well, we got a war. We've got a war for our own survival, but nobody's listening to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the worst thing, of course, happening now is this climate change stuff, acidification of the ocean, that kind of thing. That's going to be terrible. But I think one of the things that's sad is the elimination of all big fish in the ocean. The horse mackerel on the Atlantic coast, the big sharks, the big tunas, everything. And they're all gone.
And you've seen that happen in front of your eyes.
Oh, yeah. There used to be competition off Lunenburg every summer when the big tuna came up. And they'd catch them in 1,000 pounds, 1,500 pounds, this sort of thing on rod and reel. And there were lots of them. They caught a few, but they didn't bother anything much. Well, they've just dropped right down. I hardly ever see them there now. Guy catches one now, he buys it a first class ticket on JAL Air to Japan.
Yeah.
We were out guarding a cable ship at one point right in the middle of the Atlantic, about 6,000 feet below us. And he was anchored and we were circling around him. And every morning, dolphins would come up, horizon to horizon, about 10 deep, thick, diving. They'd go up and they'd go over the other horizon. In the evening, back they'd come. We were fishing this huge area. I don't know what they were doing, but anyway, there they were. I don't know what kind of dolphin they were. I guess a bottlenose. But
do you think a voluntary effort could work?
I think voluntary efforts do. They're very good. I think that's probably the best bet, is to get some program, one part. Everybody says we're going to steer clear of it. We're going to keep this. And oh, you were nasty, so and so. I mean, like for instance, now the Pescadero Fish Diving Club, which used to be spear diving, is now where you go and touch a glass sponge and you get up and say psychopath, murderer.
Yeah. So we've come.
Yeah, it's come way. Oh yeah.